I'm still not always used to seeing people because I work alone in a room a lot of the day. I wanted to start by, we're having a little tech issue, so just bear with me, but I wanted to start, hopefully, oops, not with that, it's a memo, showing you a screenshot of an email that was the best email that I got yesterday. I was really, really psyched to get this email. So I circled the part that I was the most excited by. Can everyone see that? No? Too small? Okay, let me make it a little bigger. How about now? Can you see what's circled in red with the arrows? Okay, it says bathroom. It's from the editor who edited me yesterday. And so I was so excited to get this email because it came in at 3:36 and our scripts are due at 3:30. And when she told me she had to go to the bathroom, I was like, awesome, because that means I get to go to the bathroom. So I wanted to start by giving you a little context, like the schedule that I report on as a daily news reporter to just show you what that's like a little bit, and then we'll talk about some interviewing strategies. Because interviewing can be very, very different depending on the type of work that you're doing. And so like today I was doing daily reporting too. So I was excited that I got to actually like go to the bathroom. Okay, all right. So I report, like Mark said, mostly for a program called Marketplace. It's a business program. Has anyone ever listened to it? Okay, like, yay! Okay. And so the way that starts is every morning, it's based in LA, there's a morning news meeting. And I don't know exactly what happens there, except that the editors meet and they talk. It's very, very early in the morning there. It's 10:30 Eastern, so 7:30 a.m. So you do the math. Like if they have to be at their office at 7:30, like what time do they have to get up and take a shower, right? And they decide what stories we're gonna do. And so it's every reporter's job to send in a morning memo with a bunch of story ideas. So that has to happen before the news meeting, before 10:30. Okay, so I'm waking up here on the East Coast, I'm reading the news in the morning at like 8 a.m., I'm collecting story ideas, and then I think I have a memo here, which I'll show you. I just happened to open it. This was actually this morning's memo. So it wasn't a particularly good memo, but it was just like, hey, here's some, oops, sorry guys. Here's some ideas for news stories that might be cool to do. None of my pitches got taken today. That happens all the time. There's so much rejection. It's like being an actor and actress. You just pitch and pitch and pitch. I think to think of it as like, what are those blow up punching dolls? Like you're just like, okay, all right. So that's a morning memo. And then I made this schedule. So this is my schedule of terror. And so this is what I do every day when I'm on daily news coverage. Now I just want to pause here for a minute and ask, because audio or interviewing can apply to so many different types of media. So who here is interested in doing like narrative storytelling, like This American Life Stories or 99% Invisible? Let's put our hands up in the air. Okay. And who here loves news so much, like me? Yay, 3 of us. Okay, that's awesome. Well, all of these strategies that we'll talk about tonight can be applied, for everything. My background in radio is I started, like Mark mentioned, I started at Radiolab, and I was so surprised to find out that I love news reporting so much. Who knew? I didn't until I tried it, and now I love it. So back to the schedule. So the morning news meeting has happened at 10:30. From 10:30 to 11, the editors are sitting in LA. They're reading pitches that are coming from all over the country from all these reporters. I don't know what happens there, but then at 11 a.m. we get an assignment. So today my assignment was to do a story about MTV is launching a classic MTV channel for its 35th birthday. It's happening Monday. So I'm a general assignment reporter. Some reporters have beats like education, sustainability. I don't. I could get any assignment. So this is usually how I feel at 11, like, whoa, what's it gonna be? Who knows? I don't know. Okay, so that's what's happening at 11. Okay. My interviews have to be done by 2 o'clock, all right? Again, assignment comes in at 11, interviews are due at 2. So this was an amazing email that I got actually today. I wanted to share it with you because it was a very special email. It's really special. So here I am, and I wrote to this guy, "Hi John, I'm a journalist with Marketplace, blah, 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 blah." And I don't know, can you see what he says? Let me make it a little bigger. I tried to be really polite. Like, would you like to talk to me? Do you have any time? Can you guys see what he wrote back? I was like, wow, all right, okay. That was a little unusual, but certainly clear and direct. Okay, so that, what time did that come in? That came in at 12:28. Okay, so again, assignments at 11, interviews are due at 2 o'clock, all right? This is 12:28, all right. So next, 2 o'clock, interviews have to be completed. So somewhere between, 11 and 2, this is how we are pretty regularly feeling. Like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to end up homeless on the streets. No one is going to call me back. Like, you literally have images of yourself homeless with all your goods, like, in the gutter, okay? But somehow, you get your interviews done. Okay. By 3:30, so at 2 o'clock our interviews are done. At 2:30, you've sent an introduction to your editor. So you've written the introduction for your story. So the same is true if you're doing a story for This American Life, or 99% Invisible, or Strangers, or The Moth, or anything like that. You are responsible, the producer, the reporter is responsible for writing what's called the host introduction. And it takes a lot of discipline. Usually you have to write that before you write your story. It's very annoying, but that's the way it is. So you've written that by 2:30, and then that leaves how long to write your story? 1 hour, okay? So 3:30, I've turned in my script, and this is the kitten that I picked as like my spirit animal for 3:30 in the afternoon, because this is how I feel at that point, right? Like, oh my God, all right. So that's 3:30, and then at 5 o'clock, the show rolls, the show airs. So what happens between 3:30 and 5 is that from 3:30 to 4 o'clock, you're editing with your editor. That's where the editor is like, everything you have done is bad and wrong, all of it. It's not quite true, but you rewrite, you revise, okay, and then you go record your audio, and you upload. So I have to record what's called acts and tracks. There are 2 parts of the script, and those are 2 little special pieces of lingo. Acts stands for actualities, and tracks stands for tracking. Tracks are your narration. So when you hear like Ira Glass talking in This American Life, or you hear a radio reporter reading and talking, that's called your tracking. So when you're doing a story and someone says, hey, have you uploaded your acts and tracks? You can say, yes, I have, or I'm going to get those to you, because you know what they are. The tracks are when you, the producer, talks. Acts is short for actuality, or the tape that you record. Okay, I'll play you an example of a story. But that's, and then we also have to write a web script, which is due by 4:45. So from 3:30 to 4, we're editing. From 4 to like 4:15, I'm recording my narration. I'm uploading all the tape, the interviews I've gathered. From like 4:15 to 4:45, I'm writing my web script. I got my assignment an hour late today, so I didn't finish my web script. So when I came in and we were getting set up, I was sitting here in my chair writing the web script. It's not done yet, but it's not for today's show, it's for the morning show. So I'm gonna do it when I go home tonight. That's okay. It's all right. It's gonna be okay. All right. I was so thank you for letting me show you these kitten slides. It made me very happy. I don't get to use a lot of pictures in my work, so I was really psyched. Okay, so I want to play you an example of like a typical type of story that I do. So I'm going to try to do that now. This was a story I was assigned years ago. It's a daily story, right? So I had to do it in this quick manner. The reason I love this story is the backstory. So one of the producers came to me and was like, okay, Sally, the price of corn is going up. So we want you to go to a steakhouse and talk to like bankers at a steak restaurant about how expensive it is to buy a steak right now. Everyone got that? The price of corn is going up. So it's going to be more expensive to buy a steak. Why? Why is that? Right? Cows eat corn. Price of steak is going to go up. That is your assignment. Let's listen to the story. All right. It's short. It's like 2 minutes.
From APN, where's the do this for me?
Can you hear?
Forget about
okay, let's pause it. All right, we're going to make it a little louder. So we're all going to remember Sally's mission was do a story on how incredibly expensive steak was. That was like the only thing I had to do in my 3 hours. Like, that's it. Okay, let's try this again. Okay.
From APM, I'm Kai Rosdahl. Do this for me, would you, as we get going today. Forget about Europe and the stock market and LIBOR and the price of a barrel of crude oil, and consider instead corn and the future of the American economy. At the Mercantile Exchange in Chicago today, traders looked at the weather forecast for the Midwest. Not a whole lot of rain coming, apparently. And they promptly sent corn prices up another 3% on top of its recent rise. Marketplace's Sally Herships has the farm report today.
Not to be too corny, but corn really drives our economy, from cereal to animal feed to the gas in your tank, which is about 10% ethanol and made from corn.
I think the misnomer is that we are a gas economy or an information economy. If you want to really get right down to it, we're almost a corn economy.
Tom Perko is president of Bevmark, a food and beverage consulting company. He says as corn prices go up, consumers can expect to pay more, from the obvious, soda made with corn syrup, to the disposable cup you drink it in, even to your toothpaste. Corn is also a feed for our food. Tell me how many cattle you have.
Mine was kind of like asking how much money we've got, but we run tens of thousands a year.
Pete Bonds is with the Bonds Ranch in Saginaw, Texas. The drought hit his herd hard last year.
It just flat forgot to run.
So Bonds Ranch had to sell off 50% of its cattle. That's what other ranchers are facing now. No grass and skyrocketing corn prices. William Tierney is chief economist at Ag Resources, a market advisory firm.
You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you go, I'm going to cut my losses now before they lose weight, before they lose condition.
Which means one silverish longing for steak lovers. The price of corn may be going up, but the price of beef is coming down. In New York, I'm Sally Herships.
Okay, so that happens a lot. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. This is sort of the, yeah.
Your sources. Are you picking your sources or are you producers?
No, you pick your sources. So you great question. And if anyone else, what's your name?
Okay.
Kay. So if anyone else besides Kay has questions, please just pop your hand up. I love that. That's great. No, that's your responsibility. So I maintain a source document, and every time, every story I do, whenever I meet anyone, I add their name, their expertise, and their contact info. It's just a Microsoft Word document, and I have it in alphabetical order, like automobiles, or analysts, automobiles, bats. I did a story on bats once, cars, or cars is automobiles. You guys get the idea. Citrus economists, whatever. And that's your job. So you spend a lot of time on the phone. Yeah?
Are the voices of people you're interviewing real voices?
Yeah?
So there's no voiceover?
No voiceover. That would not be ethical. I'm really glad you asked that question. No, these are the farmer's a real farmer, and the corn economist or whatever, I can't remember, commodities trader was real. Yeah, they're all real people. Okay, so that happens where you start out, you get assigned a premise and it turns out to be wrong, and that's part of your job is to figure it out, right? To confirm everything. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. Let's make a list. I love lists. Let's make a list of interviewing strategies, because that's what we're here to talk about, right? Interviewing strategies? Okay. I'll play some more stuff too.
I
Okay.
have one question.
Yeah.
When you said you have to write the intro for the host,
Yeah.
does your style of writing that change if someone is standing in front of Pat?
Yeah, so we have a morning show and an evening show. So the morning show is hosted by David Brancaccio, and the evening show is Kai Risdall. So I will write differently for Kai than I will for David, because they're different people. And also what happens is, right, I'm editing my script with an editor. So I'm gonna write it, my editor's gonna chime in, she's gonna revise some stuff, and then Kai or David are gonna get it, and they're gonna change it too. It's different though at different outlets. My understanding is that NPR, Marketplace is produced, like Mark mentioned, by American Public Media, not by NPR. At NPR, they don't change the host intros. That's my understanding. So it's really, really different everywhere. Okay, so interviewing strategies. When you are going to get audio tape for any kind of story and you get to a location, what is the first thing that you have to do? And if you took my class and you took my class, but when you enter a room, let's say you walk into this room and you're about to do an audio interview, what do you need to do? What do you need to start thinking about? Yes?
Where is going to be a quiet place?
Where is going to be a quiet place? Is this a quiet place?
It's terrible.
It is a terrible place. Why is it a terrible place?
fan noise, and we got hard walls.
That's exactly right. So what would you do if you were in this room and you had to do your interview in this room? Does anyone know? Yes.
Get really close to the subject?
What, can I walk around? Is that okay? Yeah. So what if I'm the subject and I'm standing here? It feels so good. Oh, it feels great. Can we talk here? Why don't you come here? You said you come on. Where should we go to do our interview? The quietest place in the room. So what you want to do is you want to get as far from the source of the bad sound as you can. But what else do you do? I have my microphone. Let's see. Brittany? Yes. Brittany. So I'm going to interview Brittany, and there's a noisy fan. I've got my microphone. What, is this right? Should I do this? What do you think? Yeah, I'm going to say Brittany, come with me. Oh, Brittany, let's put her off. Hello. Okay, and I'm going to take Brittany as far away from my head of the sound. I'm going to turn her like this, and I'm going to use my back as a human shield and point my mic away from the sound. Okay, sound travels, right? So I'm like pretending I'm a big quarterback. I'm like blocking the sound. Thank you, Brittany. Okay, right? So that's what we're going to do. What else are we going to do? If we're in a kitchen, kitchens are sneaky. What do we want to watch out for in a kitchen? Refrigerator. Why?
Background noise.
Background noise, right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to case the joint, okay? We're going to look for background noise, okay, like fans, fridges, okay? I have a fun little 2 clips I'm going to play. I'm going to try. What about Starbucks? Is Starbucks okay? Why not? Okay, but what if I want that? Because sometimes we want sound in our stories to create a sound-rich environment. I'll play you a couple examples of stories like that later. What if I'm doing a story on baristas? And my friend Krissa is in the back, and Krissa is a barista, and I want to do an interview about baristas. Should I do it in the Starbucks? What should I do? I'm saying yes, I'm saying no. What do we think?
Can you record the barista noises separately?
Yeah, so I can get what's called ambient sound. I'm going to record what's called ambi. Always record ambi. Always record ambi. So that's short for ambient sound. Okay, and what's an example of ambient sound? Coffee grinder, a fan, sizzle of a burger on a grill, right? That's all ambient sound, okay? And what's another reason I wouldn't want to do an interview in a place like Starbucks? Besides the coffee grinder and the people, what do places like Starbucks have playing in them? Music. Music can be our enemy. Why do I have to be careful of music? Huh?
Right.
It's rights. That's an interesting question. I'm going to write that down so I think about it, so I remember to address that, because that's a really good point. What is the other issue with music?
If you need to edit the sound and you're editing the music.
Exactly. So if I need to edit, imagine that Beyonce is singing under part of Chris's interview, and then Bach comes on. And I want to put a clip where Bach is playing and Chris is talking, and a clip where Beyonce is singing. That's not going to be happy together, okay? So we turn music off. We want to avoid music. All right, so I'm going to play a little clip, because I think it's funny, if I can. Let's see. Pro Tools crashed. Oh, come on, Pro Tools. So Pro Tools is software that we use, one of the softwares that we use to edit sound. It's not part of this list, but I'll just write it down while I'm waiting for it to restart. Okay, editing software. Has anyone heard of Pro Tools before? Okay, so we use it to edit audio. What are some other kinds of software we can use to edit audio while we're waiting for Pro Tools to restart?
Audacity.
Sorry?
Audacity.
Audacity, yes. Oh, Audition. Okay, hold on. Pro Tools is being disapproved. All right, I'm going to write these down. So we have, okay, Audacity, Audition, Hindenburg, there's something called Reaper. So these are all different kinds of software that you can use to edit sound. All right, let's see if Pro Tools is behaving. Yes. That error message is fine. Okay. All right. So this is Pro Tools. You'll see it here for a second. All right. I was really scared the first time I saw it because I didn't have a background in audio. So if you have a background in mixing music and stuff, apparently it's somehow familiar to music engineers. I don't know, I'm not a music engineer. So there are two funny clips that I just would love to share, which sort of show how careful you have to be when you're interviewing people. So the first one, they're both what are called phoners. Anyone know what a phoner is? It's a phoner. It's an interview over the phone, right? And some places let you use them and some places don't let you use them. What would be the advantages of doing an interview over the phone be?
You have to go.
Quick, quiet, fast, super easy. What would be the disadvantages? Sounds like crap. Honestly, they sound pretty bad. So we get to use them for daily news, but we don't typically get to use them for feature stories. So a feature story is like a more special story that takes longer to report and you want it to be higher quality. All right, so these are two phoners that I did. Both of them I think are from Marketplace. They're two short clips. And see, I'm gonna play the first clip and see if you can figure out, I'm listening to something, I'm hearing something, it's very subtle, but it worries me and I'm worried that it's gonna cause a problem in the interview. So see if you can figure it out before I say something about it.
But why are they wanting to join the EU? There are a couple reasons. First, it's the Schengen system. That's where you can go outside your door, leave your passport at home, and you can live, work, and play in more than 30 countries.
Can anyone hear the problem? It's very faint.
That's a big...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Do you have parakeets?
Oh, I should, yes. Another point. You can hear the finches in the background.
Yeah.
There's a couple very interesting things.
So why would I be worried about parakeets? And could you not hear them? It's hard, it takes a little while to develop this kind of ear, but also there's a fan going in the back here, I was actually on the phone with her, it was easier for me to hear, right? Why was I worried about birds in this story? Why was it a problem? It wasn't relevant, yeah. It was like a story about the EU and the Schengen system, right? Parakeets have nothing to do with it. If I was doing a story about a zoo or the outdoors, it would be appropriate, but people would be like, what are those parakeets? Yeah.
That's what technology you use for recording from.
Yes. Unfortunately, I can't tell you a terrible lot about it because I work from home and I was sent home by the audio engineers with a giant blue IKEA bag of gear. And then they talked me through setting it up over the phone. But what I can tell you is I have what's called a mixing board, which allows me to raise and lower volume levels. And I have a machine called a telos, and I have a landline phone, and I have a microphone. So my landline phone is attached to this machine called a telos, which connects to this mixing board. I'm sorry, I wish I could answer that better. If you want something inexpensive, there was a device called a THAT2, which I remember from a few years ago. It's called a THAT2. THAT2, THAT2. There might be now a THAT3 or a THAT4, and it was like 25 or 30 bucks from Radio Shack. But at this point, honestly, what we do a lot is we have people record themselves on their iPhones. So you can place a call and you want to have your interviewee have access to a phone. And you have them talk on one phone, record on the other phone, and then email you the file. Okay? All right, so here's the other clip.
That we're seeing in the market but that may change over the next few years.
I hear a little one crying, I think.
No. It's my cat. I'm gonna keep the cat away. The cat is outside the door. Hang on a second. Please, can you maybe take the cats away?
Okay, that just cracks me up. So that's the kind of thing, and that happens all the time. So what we're gonna add to our list of interview strategies, and I never imagined I would have to do this, is when you set up an interview, an in-person interview, your idea of quiet is very different than a civilian's idea of quiet. Totally different thing. So you want to check ahead of time and ensure a quiet spot. And I've learned to list things, like I've learned to say, so there's no construction going on, no lawn mowing, you don't have any dogs that can't be shut up in a room, there's no crying babies, like parakeets, like I've gone to situations like this and literally found people being like, oh, is the giant construction a like, is that the jackhammering? Like, we'll just shut this door. And I'm like, no. So you have to call and do that ahead of time and make sure, because your idea of quiet is not the same as a regular person's idea of quiet. Okay, it's really, really different. Okay, so let's talk about getting good tape. I'm gonna play, just switch. Okay, I'm gonna play a piece by one of my favorite radio producers of all time. I love his work so much. I play it in every class. I'm sorry to the two of you who were in my class before. Okay. And then I want to talk about the kind of sound he got and how to get this sound. So his name is Robert Smith. Does anyone know who he is? Robert Smith. Who's Robert Smith? Planet Money, yeah. So Robert Smith works at a program called Planet Money, which is produced by NPR. He used to be a general assignment reporter at NPR, and he is like, you know how there'll be like musicians, and comedians, like every radio producer just thinks he's amazing because he's so amazing. The guy is just like a genius. So I'm gonna play the story that he did about a puddle. It's about a puddle. Let's listen to this story, and let's also listen for the types of sound he gets, okay? And the interviews that he gets, the tape that he gets, and then we'll talk about how to get tape, good tape. All right, so this is a piece he did called After the Blizzard. It's short, it's just a few minutes. Okay.
Support for NPR comes from Northwell Health, who believe when 61,000 people look at healthcare differently, a hospital curtain can be more than just a curtain. It can be designed to reduce the spread of infection. Northwell Health. Look north.
From NPR News, this is Day to Day. The record-breaking snowfall that buried New York City this weekend is beginning to melt, and that means record-breaking puddles of slush are now filling the streets.
We have two snow reports. First,
so the host
NPR's
intro,
Robert
right,
Smith,
which Robert would have written.
I was halfway across 24th Street when the water hit my ankles. This was it, the largest puddle in Manhattan. It was 15 feet across. It stretched for half a block, and it was getting deeper with every step. Brett Silver hiked up his pants to slosh the final 3 feet.
It was epic. It was deep and wet and fantastic.
As a New Yorker, Silver is a connoisseur of slush. But for the out-of-towners stranded on the curb, this seemed like the Bermuda Triangle.
That is the largest puddle I've ever seen.
And where are you from? Like, so they judge your puddle knowledge.
Los Angeles.
So you've never seen a puddle before in your life?
It's called the Pacific Ocean.
Aaron Labowitz has every reason to be scared. This puddle delights in swallowing tourists. Maddie Nickerson just flew in from London, hopped into a cab at the airport, and hopped out into 6 inches of ice-cold water.
Oh, man! Shocking, isn't it? Look at me, I'm so... Right, you get my bag.
Well, you just got out of a cab right into the middle of it. You had no warning.
No warning whatsoever. It's deep.
New York gets these puddles whenever piles of melting snow block the sewer breaks. Every local has his or her own style for tackling the briny deep. There's the shuffle, feeling carefully for any sudden drop-offs. There's the leap, which sprays the slush up your pants. Some prefer the heel walk, others the tippy toe, but few escape the dreaded wet foot. But in the big city, one person's misfortune is another's amusement. Inside the cell phone store on the corner, the staff and the customers have been watching the slapstick all day.
As long as it's not you, it's funny.
Sebastian Smith works the counter here and says he especially enjoys the look on people's faces when they get halfway across and start to swear.
Oh, you can read their lips.
Every epic challenge eventually calls forth a hero, and ours is Adam Van Wickler. He has brand new sneakers on. He's slowly pacing back and forth on the curb, figuring out the narrowest parts.
You've got beautiful white shoes. What are you going to do?
It's going to be a problem. I'm going to jump.
There's no way you can jump that far. That's like 5 feet.
It's pretty far. I'm going to try.
Oh, yeah. See, made it with the toe jump.
Giving the rest of us hope. Somewhere on the other side of this puddle, there is dry land. Robert Smith, NPR News, New York.
Okay, I love that story. It's about a puddle. You guys, it was about a puddle. Okay, so what are some of the things we heard and noticed about that story? In the writing or the sound? What kind of sounds did you hear? People walking through the puddles. So we got ambient sound. Where's my mouse? Here. Right, we got ambi. Okay. So I like to think of ambi in two ways. I like to think of close-up and big picture. Okay? So imagine that you're a filmmaker. So there are some sounds that you're zooming in close, like people's footsteps, and then there might be streets, just the sound of the street, which is kind of like a big picture sound. So when you're out getting ambi, you actually want to, just like a filmmaker might create a shot list ahead of time, you want to think about the sounds you want ahead of time and make a list of those sounds and try to collect them. Now you're not going to be able to anticipate everything, but there's certainly some sounds you can think ahead about gathering. Okay, so what else did you notice? What else did you hear?
You hear people laughing and talking.
Mm-hmm. So
some tuned in and some just overheard.
So we hear a lot of interaction, okay, and that's a style. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my mouse. That's a stylistic thing. Okay, so we hear him on tape interacting with people. What does that help us do? Because that's a style choice. We could just have him writing. He could go out and interview people. What did you think of the puddle? And then tell us later, you know, Marcia Smith wore a lovely red tank top and said the puddle was the biggest she'd ever seen. But we hear him on tape interacting. Why do you think he does that?
Helps you visualize.
It helps you visualize, exactly. It puts you there. It puts you on the scene, okay? He's a stand-in for us, okay? All right, what else did we hear? Else notice anything? I happen to think that he's so good, it's a little hard sometimes. Things are so well done, it can be a little hard to imagine what he's doing to get the tape. So I'm gonna play you a clip of a reporter who's struggling to get good tape. Okay, so this is a great resource. It's a site called Transom. Has anyone heard of Transom before? What is Transom?
Public radio audio advice.
Public radio audio advice. I couldn't have put it better myself. Okay. All right. So I'm going to play you a clip from transom.org. I'll write it down here so you have it if you want to check it out later. Transom has what are called manifestos. So they have kind of essays or articles written by people like Robert Smith, people like Jad Abumrad at Radiolab, articles on how to use music in a story, how to put yourself in a story, how to create a scene, all kinds of things. So it also has information on tech. So if you're looking to buy equipment, you're not sure which recorder is for you, there are all these different great resources on this website. So it's a fantastic place to check out. So I'm bringing up a manifesto on Transom, and I want to play you a clip from a reporter. So there's a reporter, and the context is that I think there was an outbreak of avian flu. Do we all remember when that happened? And everyone was really scared that they were going to get avian flu. And this reporter was doing a story about whether or not it was safe to go to the zoo. Apparently, everyone was really worried if they would go to the zoo where there were birds and animals, they were all going to get avian flu. And he was talking to an expert about the avian flu. And one of the problems is with experts is that sometimes they can be a little bit technical in their discussion. So let's listen to this reporter talking to this expert and how he handled the situation.
Zoos are part of the community in which
this is
they exist, and that community either has risk or does not have risk, and there's no difference within the zoo boundaries than with outside the zoo boundaries. So we actually are...
You didn't say that right. The community, just do that again, that was great though. I mean, no, here look, I told you this already, but I'm at the end of the bar, I'm really drunk. I want you to make this point, I want you to hold my interest, but I am a real dumb shit, and I'm gonna fall and get a hematoma if you don't give this to me. So, and I'm convinced that I'm gonna die if I go to the zoo, okay? If I go to the zoo, I'm gonna die, buddy. I don't care who you are, you know? So you tell me, you got 10 seconds to tell me why I don't have to worry about the zoos.
Zoos are not any different than the surrounding area in which they exist. There's no reason to believe that coming inside a zoo wall presents a greater risk than being outside the zoo walls. They're part of the community in which they exist. The animals here are just as susceptible as the people, and it's a citywide or a region-wide thing, not a specific hotspot.
How do you know that?
We know that because we test our animals a lot. We test for mosquitoes, we look for mosquitoes. We actually do more surveillance inside the zoo than the cities do or the counties do outside the zoo. So we actually know our risk much more than say, another part of the city.
And it's low.
And it's very low, yeah. Nice. Zoos are...
So, what did he do there? We had a wonky expert. What did the reporter do to get better tape? It's nothing crazy or scientific. What did he do? Huh? He sort of made jokes like, I'm a real dumb shit, I'm drunk. But what else did he do?
He asked for the ones.
Yeah. Yep. So, exactly. Okay, so here we go.
And you gave him a time frame. He said, you got 10 seconds.
Okay, so don't be afraid to ask again. Okay. So we gave him a time frame. You're going to do whatever you need to. Sure, provide a time frame if that's helpful. Absolutely. Okay. What else? Yeah.
He was very non-judgmental and engaging the guy. The guy saying all this stuff, and it just like took it. Okay, let's go with it, and made it very collegial rather than how can you say these ridiculous things?
Yeah, he didn't attack him, so we don't. Yeah, we never judge. I'm gonna say that he pushed him. That's what I'm gonna go with. I think I don't have this. I'm not afraid to push people. But who here is worried about interviewing strangers? Is anyone worried about that? Or are you all totally comfortable? If I was like, right now, go out on the street and I want you to all interview 5 strangers. How do you feel about that? Who's like, awesome? 1, 2, 3. And who's like, I'm super nervous about that. I have funny feelings. Okay, and the rest of you are in between? Sort of. Okay. So for those of you who have the funny feelings, don't be afraid to ask again. You have a license to be curious. Okay, when you're a producer or a journalist, and sometimes you need to push. Okay, another great way to think about that, I'm just going to do bullets, I'm going to get my numbers out of order, is if you don't understand something, how will you be able to explain it to the audience, right? If that's your job, if you're trying to tell a story, okay? All right, so I think that's great. So oftentimes we'll say, tell it to me like I'm grandma, tell it to me like I'm a little kid, explain it like you would at a dinner party, explain it to me again and again, all right? What do you do if you're talking to like a politician or you're doing an investigative story and someone refuses to talk to you? What do you think you do then? It's kind of a trick question. What do you think? Yes? Speak up. You invite him for a drink? What if he says no? I like this strategy. Okay. No, I'm not coming. No.
You're saying they don't do the interview at all?
Huh?
You're saying
They won't do the interview. No. Is that a problem? What do we think?
I would say that you would say, sure, in the story we're happy to say that you have no comment.
Yeah, bingo. So because sometimes people when they're first starting out, they get nervous if they're trying to interview someone in government, a politician, an important person, and they say that they have no comment or they refuse to make a comment. This is a note for you as a producer. Remember that not commenting it says just as much as doing an interview, right? Then you say, I reached out to so-and-so, I contacted Walmart, I contacted the mayor, I contacted the governor, the office had no comment, right? What does that tell us? It says something, right? Yeah, they don't want to talk, okay? So sometimes people, my students will sometimes get nervous when they reach out to someone and they won't talk, but not talking can say just as much as talking, okay? Okay, so what else? When we start a story, I talked about it like creating a movie. What do we want to do? Let's say that we were assigned a story on the puddle, and we want to create our set list, okay? Our shot list, sorry. So we want to imagine when you're creating a story, I said I was going to do both ones. Okay. When creating a story, imagine that you're a filmmaker, and you want to imagine your dream scene. Okay, because you have a choice. You have your microphone. Where are you going to go to do this story? Robert Smith didn't have to go to the slushy street. He chose to go there. He made a decision to go there. So you're going to pick your locations. Where else did he take us? Does anyone remember? The store across the street. What was he doing? Why did he take us to the store across the street? Huh? A different perspective, yeah. So you want to create that shot list, right? You want to imagine different perspectives. You have a camera. What are you going to shoot, okay? Radio, audio, podcasting is a visual medium. So he took us to the store across the street. He was moving the camera around. So you're going to do that too. All right, so we have dream scenes and locations, and then who are we going to talk to? We want to imagine our dream characters. Okay. Right? We want to decide who we want to talk to. So we want to talk to the person who lost the job, or talk to the person who fell in the puddle, that kind of thing, all right? I have another great, oops, sorry guys, hold on. Okay. Bear with me, I'm gonna pull this up. So we have options. We can talk about something. What did Robert Smith do when we heard the puddles? Because you have a decision. You're making a decision. He could have just told us it was a really icy day and there were big puddles in New York City. He took us there, and what did we hear? Splashing. Okay, we heard people in the puddles. And I have this ultimate example of the choice. You're making a choice. We want to get, it's called active tape. It's really important, so I'm going to put it in all caps. Active tape. Okay, so it's the difference between if I said to you, what's your name in the white tank top? Sorry? Christelle. So if I said, Christelle, do you like chocolate? Yeah, she says yes. Okay, and then I said, Christelle, could you eat a piece of chocolate and describe it to us? That's active tape. It's the difference between describing something and actually getting someone to do it. And here's a great example of that.
Taser's Washington lobbyist, Monty Tripp, used this analogy.
I think it's kind of like being hit by a truck, and then each one of these pulses as it hits you is kind of like a jackhammer.
Neither is entirely accurate, as I found out.
We're going to just give you a quick second, and then you can describe it afterwards. Ready? Here we go.
For me, it was excruciatingly painful, like someone reached into my body to rip my muscles apart with a fork, and there was nothing I could do to stop it.
Okay, so that's active tape. She could have asked other people what it was like to be tased, but she got tased, and we heard her get tased. Okay? Yeah, it's pretty great. I mean, it's not great that she was tased, but it's great active tape. Okay? Okay, I've got a couple of other practical things, and then I know it's super hot in here, so we'll wrap up and take questions. Can I borrow a volunteer for a second? How about you, lovely lady in the red tank top? Come on. No, okay. You want to come back up? Thank you. All right. So this is just a basic interviewing 101 thing. So this is my microphone, and I'm going to interview you, and I'm going to do something wrong and bad. Okay, and you guys try to remember what it is. Okay. What's your name? Brittany. Okay. Do you enjoy the weather, the hot weather? Really? Yeah. Tell me what you're wearing.
Well, it's on my
Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Tell me where you got your sunglasses.
I bought them from my friend's
Really?
closet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What did I do wrong? Thank you. You can sit down. Thank you. What was I doing wrong there? Yeah. Don't talk over your subject. Why not? Bad tape. Okay. I can't. There is no. I don't know. The FBI or the CIA might have the magical ability to separate that. I have no idea. I've never been in those headquarters. We can't do that. Like that's not possible. And a lot of people, that's a habit they have to break because we're used to having conversations like human beings where we're like, oh, okay, You're gonna have to use your face to be expressive. Okay, but at the same time, you also, now I'm gonna tell you the exact opposite thing. You do want to capture interactions, right? We heard the zoo tape, right? The guy was like, why is that, or whatever he said. He used that in his story. We heard Robert Smith saying, where are you from? The guy said Los Angeles. Robert Smith said, so you've never seen, you don't know what you're talking about, right? So we do actually want to capture interactions, but you have to be careful not to talk on top of people. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is a super basic thing. Prepare your questions ahead of time. Print them out and bring them with you. No, that sounds silly, but it's really important because you'll be in the conversation and you might forget. So I always have my questions in a pen and I'm crossing out as I'm going. Okay. We also want to do something that's called following up. What do I mean by follow up?
Listen to the answers and play it off.
Yeah, can you give me an example? So ask me where I went to college.
Sally, where did you go to college?
New York.
Where in New York?
Manhattan.
What school?
Parsons.
And what did you study?
Illustration. Okay, so he's following up, right? He's going to ask me where, when, how, why. We want to follow up. Okay, you need to have all of those details. It sounds silly, but it's really, really, really important. Okay. The other thing that I want to bring up, just as a personal thing, is ethics. This is so important. When we hear something coming out of the speakers or the TV or our little phones, what do we assume when we turn on the TV and we see something? We assume it's true and it's all kosher. So you need to confirm facts, okay? If someone is mentioned in your story, you need to contact them and check to see if they have a comment. Give them the opportunity to tell their side of the story. What's happening right now is we're having a podcasting and media explosion, and people who are coming from a storytelling background, who are not trained in journalism and ethics, are telling stories and they're not being rigorous about this. So just put yourself in the other person's shoes and imagine how you would feel if you were discussed in a story that was aired to millions of people and no one had checked with you first. That would feel pretty rotten, right? Okay. All right, so those were some assorted interviewing things. Should we take some questions? Is that good? We're saying, I don't know, it's kind of hot. Yeah, questions? Okay, other questions? Yeah.
I'm curious about, and I may be the only person here who is, but about the procedures you go through on your daily news reporting. You've written a script.
Yeah.
And now, are you isolating on your audio software the acts and tracks and then uploading just those that someone else will assemble?
Yes. So every show and every outlet and every program works their own way. Some places have unions where audio engineers are the only ones who are allowed to do what's called mix the story. But at Marketplace, which is different than Studio 360, which is different than 99% Invisible, which is different than Serendipity, the reporters are responsible for capturing our, the narrated tape that's part of the script that we wrote and the actualities and uploading those. So we upload them into, oh, I can't, okay, I was gonna show you, but I can't access the internet here. But we use a web form and we just send them the acts and the tracks. Yeah, okay. You had a question? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One, could you talk a bit about the gear you use?
Sure. I use expensive gear, to be perfectly honest. I use something called, a company makes my gear, it's called Sound Devices. It's really expensive. It was thousands and thousands of dollars. When I started, so I use what's called a solid state recorder, but I think it's a 722. But when I first started, I didn't. I used like a $100 microphone and like a $100 mini disc recorder. It was a long time ago. Do you guys remember mini discs? And that was fine. Like I was in London and I got taped for Radiolab using my $100 omnidirectional microphone. That's a kind of mic that picks up in multiple directions. Shopping for equipment is like shopping for a car or a home. It's very personal. Everyone's on a different budget. Everyone has, it's like buying a computer. Like maybe you're gonna upgrade in a few years. When I bought my Sound Devices, I was like, this is it. Like I'm not, like I want this thing for 10 years and I think I've had it for like a long time. So what I would recommend for people who are looking for gear is to check out transom.org. There's also a place called airmedia.org, which is the Association of Independents in Radio. If you're interested in joining, there is a small membership fee, but there's a listserv. There's also where you can post questions like that, and people constantly talk about that. There's also a New York Google email list, which is free, and people post this kind of question all the time. And unfortunately, I'm just not an engineer. And like some people want a hatchback, and some people want a four-door car, and like, yeah. So it does take some research. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about how you got into the field then? I think there's kind of a later.
Sure. And one thing, so two things I'll just say quickly. This is a great time to get into radio. When I say radio, I'm including podcasting. Okay, I've just been doing this for a long time. It's a great time to get into radio. Tons of jobs. Also, there is no one right way. That's really, really important, right? Some people go to school, some people do internships, some people don't do any of that, they just start their own podcast. There's no one right way. The way that I got into it was I went to art school, right? And now I'm a business reporter, so those things don't add up at all. I was working on oral history projects because I loved interviewing people. And I was at a party, this was like almost 15 years ago. I was at a party and I was like, I'm working on this oral history project. It was at a party with artists. And this guy was like, oh, you should come take this training at our local radio station. And I was like, why? I don't see the connection. I'm doing oral history and you do radio. I don't get that, buddy. Because I didn't listen to the radio. And but he was kind of persuasive. So I went down there and I was like, whoa! I mean, literally, I walked in the door and 15 minutes in, I was in love. I mean, I was like, you will not take this microphone away, And it was a station a network called Pacifica. Has anyone heard of that? A great community, right? Great community resource. And so they trained me, and then I said, I want to come back and make more radio. And they said, what's your cause? And I said, I don't have one. I paint cats in watercolor. And so they gave me a book by Howard Zinn, The People's History of America, and said to read it and come back. And I was teaching at Parsons, which is an art school, and I was really frustrated because I wanted to make more radio, and they wouldn't let me, so I decided to take a class. Because I was a professor, I got to take classes, so I was taking a class. And I was assigned to research a guy named Jad Abumrad at a station called WNYC. He did a show called Radiolab. I sort of knew what WNYC was, never heard of Jad, didn't know what Radiolab was. I was on the phone with him for my homework assignment and just felt in my gut that it was a really good thing. And I was 30 or 31, so it's a while ago, and I said to him, right when we were about to get off the phone, does your station ever take interns? And he said, yeah, we do. And I said, would you mind telling me who I might speak to? And he said, well, you seem nice. Why don't you come work for us? And you can call my producer, Ellen. And so that was that. Yeah. And that's how I got started. Yeah. It's a little unusual. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys, any last thought?
This may be more of an observation than a question. I was originally trained in national security, intelligence analysis, and being combative, because I would be theoretically in a position to send people to kill and be killed. And now I watch interviews by esteemed journalists on American television, and it makes me crazy how fucking polite they are and accepting lies of people and not probing.
I agree.
Now the British do this better than Americans do. Yeah. There's even something on BBC called Bar Talk, and I don't understand American journalism in that regard.
I mean, I have to be honest, I kind of agree. After I did my internship at Radiolab, I went to the BBC in London, and that was exactly why I went. Because I didn't understand why, I noted the difference in styles, and I really admired what the BBC did. I can't speak for all journalism. I can only speak for, this one lady. But I do my best, and then the one thing I would remember is that, you're doing your best. You might have come into the talk a little bit late, but at the beginning I presented a schedule, there were kitten pictures, but it's a very intense, I do daily news, it's a very intense schedule. When you turn a live radio on, radio has to come out. And sometimes, we have a saying, you gotta just make the donuts. You gotta get your tapes. Something's gotta go on the air. Yeah, but you can't have dead air. So I do the best that I can do within the time frame that I'm allotted. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay, guys. Thank you so much. It was so hot. Thank you for